It's possible that successful genre director Matthew Vaughn may come to the DC movie universe if recent media reports are true. And I think they are. And this wouldn't be the first time that his name has come up as someone potentially to do a DC movie. I think earlier this year or last year, there were articles talking about how he might do Man of Steel 2, the sequel to Zack Snyder's first Man of Steel, that starred Henry Cavill as Superman. And, that floated around in the news for a little while and then it went away. And you didn't hear much about it. And it wasn't announced that he was going to do a DC film. And so that did go away. But it's come back because he was on an IGN, I think, podcast. And he gave comments about working with DC in general and Man of Steel 2. And a lot of people picked up on that and reported it. And I'm going to read some of those quotes. But just first, let me give you a little bit of background about who Matthew Vaughn is. He has been involved in many successful comic book based and just sci-fi in general movies based on comic books. X-Men First Class, that was a very good movie. He directed that. He also did Kick-Ass and both of the Kingsman movies. And those were all based on Mark Millar properties. Those were all successful. Although I didn't really like Kingsman 2 as much as Kingsman 1. But those were all Matthew Vaughn things. So Matthew Vaughn is appropriate. He does fit comic book material and superhero stuff. And X-Men First Class is very interesting because he came in and did that at a time when the X-Men franchise was kind of on the wane. The first two X-Men movies by Bryan Singer were very critically and financially successful. And then afterwards, X-Men 3, I think it was X-Men 3 United or whatever by Brett Ratner, they made a lot of money, but a lot of people didn't like that movie. That was like the first X-Men movie that was kind of critically, I guess, panned or just not as well received. And a lot of fans didn't like it either. And so when he came in to do X-Men First Class, and it was a quality movie, and I saw that it was a good movie, it definitely, reinvigorated interest in the X-Men universe. And that's actually similar to what he would hope to do to the DC universe right now, because DC's having trouble because Justice League underperformed and was critically, panned. And so let's go into what he says here. He references that in these recent conversations about going to DC. Never say never. I'm at that stage in my career where it's quite important to me who I'm working with. I do love the world of DC, and I've been talking to them at the moment about a few things. It's more fun getting involved with franchises when they're on the down, because then it's easier to make a good film. So if I got involved with a few of the superhero films out there that have been disappointing, it's going to at least, if I do okay, it'll probably be better. So what's he talking about here? Well, he's talking about the fact that DC movies are on the wane right now. Now, Justice League, DC movies mostly always get critically panned by people, torn apart. But despite of all that, they've all, except for Wonder Woman was beloved by critics, but all the others for the most part weren't. But they've all made a lot of money despite of critics trashing them. But Justice League, which came out last month, that was the first DC movie that was trashed that also didn't make enough money. I mean, BVS underperformed too, but Justice League underperformed even more. And, it's only going to finish out its run, I think, with $675 million about. And this was a movie that I think a lot of people were expecting to make at least in the $800 million or do better than its predecessor, BVS. Sequels are supposed to do better than the first ones. Justice League didn't. It underperformed, and it was critically, reviled. So, DC's, kind of on the wane right now. And that's what he means. But let's keep going. So when I did X-Men, there was, a pretty low bar. X-Men 3. No offense, was not a fantastic piece of work. It's much more fun reinventing and saving something. I'd be more intimidated trying to do a new Guardians of the Galaxy, for example. I don't know if I can make it any better. So he's being honest. He feels that he'd be setting us up for failure more if he were to come in, with Marvel or Star Wars or something. They're already pretty much at the peak or at the top or doing very well. And so for him to follow that up, it would be hard to match that bar of success. But DC is kind of at a low point right now. So anything that he would do, even if it was just okay, would look good compared to what came before, in his opinion. I don't agree with that personally because I like Justice League and I like the DC movies, but this is what he's saying. He does reference Marvel in this conversation. He says that the Avengers Infinity War trailer, which I reviewed in this channel like a week or two ago, I liked that trailer, but he didn't actually. And he talks about how it was too much like Justice League, which I was offended by because I love Justice League. But let's get to the quote. It looks like bloody Justice League. Christ, I just got through Justice League. I'm more into the Guardians and Doctor Strange. I'm hurt. Is he trashing my movie? I feel they're at least evolving more. But how many times can we see all these guys come together to fight off an alien invasion? Forget him. I don't want him on the... No, I'm kidding. That's how he feels. I don't agree, but that's how he feels. He also... Another article also mentioned Mark Millar. Mark Millar referenced the chances of Matthew Vaughn coming to DC, and he said that they had a conversation about it. And I'm going to read that quote too. Here's what Mark Millar says about Matthew Vaughn coming to DC. Apparently Vaughn talked to him about it. He and I are massive Superman fans. I mean, we worship Richard Donner. Oh, and just to back up a bit, Richard Donner is the guy who did the first Superman movies from like the 80s and late 70s with Christopher Reeve that are loved and many people think is the cinematic essence of who Superman is. Superman full of hope, Superman being confident, and, you know, Superman just being a cool guy who wants to help people. And that's what he's talking about here. We love the Christopher Reeve movies. He actually phoned me up a few months ago and he said, hey, listen, DC, they're very interested in me doing Man of Steel 2. Do you want to come in and do this? And I was like, I'm exclusive to Netflix for years. I guess he's saying he can't. What that means is Mark Millar just signed a contract with Netflix. They're going to develop properties on Netflix of his content. And so I guess legally he has to be just committed to them. He can't do stuff for like DC or Marvel or anyone. He's got to stay with Netflix. And so I think that's what Mark Millar's referring to, that he cannot help Matthew Vaughn with these movies because he has obligations elsewhere. But let's keep going. And I was like, I'm exclusive to Netflix for years. We can't even have that conversation. And he was like, oh man, what's the chances of this? And then he kind of drifted away. And he's attached himself to a couple of things and all that. You know, so it's one of those things that if somebody phones Matthew up and offers him enough money, it could all change tomorrow. And, you know, maybe it will. I mean, I'm a supporter of Matthew Vaughn doing Superman or doing any DC movie. I mean, I like his work that I've seen. I didn't really like Kingsman 2 as much as Kingsman 1. But it's not like, it wasn't a bad movie. It just wasn't as good as another one. I mean, I think he has the talent and the ability to do a good DC movie. And if he likes Superman the way Superman is supposed to properly be portrayed, that makes me feel even better about him doing Superman. Because I don't know if a lot of people either don't get Superman or if they get Superman, they don't like Superman. They think he's like boring or too goody two shoes. And my opinion on that is, if you don't like Superman the way he's supposed to be, you shouldn't be doing Superman. So the fact that Matthew Vaughn does get Superman and does want to do Superman and is a good filmmaker, in my opinion, I support it. I think do Superman or do another DC movie. Join the DC movie universe and wave your, reach for the stars. I don't know. There are some people who are not excited about Matthew Vaughn doing Superman or doing Man of Steel 2. I've seen those videos and I've seen articles, but I think he could do a good job. That's my video for the day about Matthew Vaughn potentially coming to the DC movie universe and what that could mean for DC movies. If you'd like to watch me make more videos about DC movies and comic books, please subscribe, like the video, and all that good stuff. And I will talk to you soon. Bye.